Good morning guys and welcome to Parked on the Edge. My name's Phil and in today's video we're going to be talking about how important it is that a man has something to look forward to in his life, daily or weekly basis, to keep his mental health in tip-top shape. That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Stick around, let's get straight into it. Okay guys, I'm back by the canal. I always love doing these videos by the canal, no cars in the background and things like that. It's always a bit more tranquil. You know, I stood over there listening to that water for about 4 or 5 minutes. How good is it when you just stood next to running water and that's all you can hear? It's like hypnotising. Anyway, into the video. Men need something to look forward to. I picked out yesterday, I never uploaded yesterday because I wanted to do a little bit more research into a few things. So I spent time yesterday watching a lot of videos on guys that are doing similar things to me, with bigger channels and more comments. And what I did was I went and started to read all the comments and definitely picked up on a theme in them comments about that we need something to look forward to. And the guys who don't have that are the guys that are struggling a lot more than everybody else. So let's get into that. Yeah, spoke to 2 friends yesterday. One friend who's financially doing a lot better than the other guy. Let's start with the other guy who's, you know, struggling financially massively at the minute. You know, all his bills are not paid and things like that. And I asked him. I said to him, what does a man need for his mental health to stay happy in this crazy world that we're living in? And he said to me, you need something to look forward to. And he said that without even thinking. And I said, yeah, I was like, yeah, of course we do, you know. I said to him, why? I said, talk me through, you know, a struggle for you. He said, well, it's like when the football season ends. He said, I don't have a lot. I don't do, you know, I play golf, I watch football. He's like, they're the 2 things that, you know, I get joy from. Obviously, you know, spending time with his child, you know, when his child's at school or he's working or whatever, what keeps you going? And he basically said, you know, if there's a football game coming up in 3 days, I'll in my head, I won't get too down because I'll be thinking, well, I'm going to really enjoy that. And, you know, if I'm having a day where I'm feeling really bad, I know I'm out playing golf in 3-4 days and, you know, I'll focus on that. And that gets me through to it, you know. I had another friend who, he's a scratch golfer, he's, you know, top golfer. If that guy was playing golf every week, he'd be winning stuff and that, you know. But he's sacrificed things that he loves doing to provide for his son, who has an expensive hobby like mine. And he said, go in there, watching my boy, it's competitive, you know, I really look forward to it. So then I asked him, what would life be like if you didn't have that in your life? And straight away he said, oh God, bad, it'd be bad. You know, it'd be really bad. I need that. And I'm not going to go into too much, but straight away I was like, oh, there's something in this, you know. Me growing up, I always had to have something. I've got a competitive nature, so I needed something competitive in my life to keep me focused on something. You know, when I was younger, it was football. I used to train a few times a week, you know, so I could be in good shape to play on the Saturday. And that would, you know, I used to really look forward to it. As soon as Saturday was over, it was, oh, I can't wait for next Saturday, you know. And then that kept me training through the week to go and play again the Saturday later. And I remember I did my knee in when I was 24, couldn't play football anymore. Did my cruciate, it was in a bad way, need operation, all that. I had a job, I couldn't afford the, you know, 9-10 months off work, so I had to come to terms with the fact that I probably wasn't going to play football anymore unless I got my knee fixed. So I had about 2 weeks where I remember thinking to myself, what's the point? You know, I had no children back then. I did have a partner actually, but you know, I was young, I was daft, and yeah, I needed something. So within 2 weeks, I think one of the managers had left, and you know, I was watching the 2 weeks watching. It just isn't the same. You're on the sideline. I was frustrated and mental health declining. And then the manager's opportunity came up. I didn't think I was capable, but I thought I want to be involved. So I said, right, I'll manage the reserve team. I did that. I was shit scared, you know, first team talk in front of 16 guys, you know. I was scared. I was, you know, am I going to be? But once I got into that environment, and I started talking about something I was passionate about, football, it came naturally to me. You know, I was a leader. I always knew it inside, but I was sort of scared of showing it. So that was the time when I really started to grow, I would say, when I became the manager of the team and I had to look after 15, 16 other guys. I used to enjoy talking to them. Some of them guys had issues, mental health issues, addiction issues. You know, they'd be turning up half drunk, but it was still brilliant type thing. You know, some of them would call me in the week, some of the younger guys at 18, 19, and actually say, boss, I'm really struggling. I need someone to talk to. Now, that happened probably, in 18 years, that probably happened 5 times. So it's not a regular occurrence, but I had one of the players saying to me that he was basically ready to commit suicide, and he was down in his garage one Sunday morning, and luckily his wife had heard him get out of bed, and she went down, and I don't think she'll know to this day, but he told me it was it was on the cards then type thing. Morning, sir. You okay? Yeah, he said it was on the cards, and that broke that cycle. That was probably 10 years ago. The guy's still here, and he started playing football again. He'd stopped doing things he loved doing, so he got himself fit again. He started playing football again. Ultimately, he had something to look forward to. When I stopped managing the football team, I did that for 18 years. It was like a drug to me. I had to do it. It was what I loved to do. I loved to turn up. I wanted to win every Saturday. And when we got beat, it'd affect my whole weekend. I'd be in a depression if we got beat. And so that's that. And then when I stopped being football manager, so I was like 2018, 2019, 2020. My lad's getting to the age where, he wants to do things. He played a little bit of football, a little bit of rugby. It wasn't for him. I could do both at that point when it was football and rugby. Then he turns around to me and says he wants to start racing, which took me in a completely different field. So I was a little bit lost for a bit because the routine that I'd had for 18 years of turning up, managing that team, had gone overnight. And I was like, I was a bit depressed about it. I was down. I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I need something. I didn't know myself as well then, but I still knew I needed something, or else I was going to be in trouble. So Jake starts go-kart racing. So I thought, right, well, I'm competitive. I like racing. I watched my dad racing growing up. Didn't do much myself, but I thought, right, I'll get in a go-kart. So I got in a go-kart, signed myself up for British Indoor Kart Championships, and that was me for 12 months, practicing 2-3 times a week. I was in it. I remember when I first started that, I was about 95 kilogram. Obviously I knew that the best way to get faster was lose weight, so that inspired me to lose weight. I dropped down to about 82 kilogram. I actually qualified 3rd quickest at my local track, went into the local final. I finished 3rd. I got through, so I got through to the next round of the British Kart Champs. I went up to the regional final. That's where I let myself down a little bit because I didn't practice. I turned up there without any practice, and I think I finished 6th. I didn't manage to get to the actual finals itself, but I was all right with it because I'd give it my best, and it was competitive. For me, I'm not like my son. If my son doesn't win, he's a bad loser, and he'll blame stuff and stuff like that. I wasn't like that. I was just happy that if I gave my best and I competed and I gave it everything, I finished where I finished, and I'll get out. And the 5 guys who finish ahead of me, I shake all their hands and I wish them all the best for the finals. I've always been that way. So then Jake's racing gets more expensive. I was playing golf at that time 3 times a week. I was playing competitive golf at the weekends. So again, I had a few things that I was really looking forward to. And I do believe that that's what kept me going during that time. And then the racing got to a point where I couldn't afford for me to race. I couldn't afford to play golf anymore. I couldn't afford a lot of things for myself anymore, my hobbies and stuff like that. But what I did was me and Jake ended up our own little team. We were going to places racing as a team, Lad and Dad, which we have a Lad and Dad YouTube channel, which will be there if you'd like to go and watch our progress on there. You'll see our struggles on there. We're turning up and we're racing against guys who are spending 100 grand a year, and we're getting chassis given to us, and we're on a real budget. But for now, the competition is, can we go and beat people who are spending thousands more than us, you know? So that's what I still have now, and that keeps me there. That's the only thing I look forward to, I'm going to be honest with you. But what I have started to look forward to is these videos, coming out on the walk, saying to myself, promising myself I'm going to walk every day, I'm going to do a video, you know, every day or every other day. And I've started to really enjoy these things now. I wish I'd have done it earlier. But what are you doing? What do you have in your life? Do you think it's important that a man has something to look forward to? You know, I'm reading through comments in videos yesterday, and guys are like, you know, our music's crap these days, our films are crap, that, you know, everything's fake, everything, you know, AI is now out there. And, you know, you think my age group, 45 to 55, with the highest divorce rates, the highest suicide rates, you know, the women are leaving us, you know, they're watching things on social media about how men should be. Their husband isn't that. Maybe he's a hard-working guy who puts it in and he's too knackered to do anything when he gets home. You know, they're the guys that are getting divorced. They're the guys that are having to start again at 45, 50. They might have never paid. Some guys, one of my friends split up with his partner. He didn't even know how to set his gas account up. You know, something as simple as that. It was real stress. So no children around, then a total upheaval. He's on his own in a house, you know. And it's mentally done him in. Now he has got into the gym, so now he's training virtually every day, and that's pulled him up out of it again. He had something to look forward to. I've had lots of comments in my videos now about, you know, about how to give up my addictions and stuff. You know, guys are saying, Phil, go and get a bike, you know, do this. Phil, you are what you eat, change your diet, you know, do this, do that. Ultimately, I can see that there's lots of ways that you guys have turned your life around, and you've employed different tactics to do it. And I think that's the beauty that I want to portray on this channel, that there's more than one way. You know, maybe one guy, it doesn't need to be a competitive thing that he's into. It might just need to be a hobby. I've saw ones in groups where, you know, a housewife has said, you know what, I've took up knitting. Again, I'm not being derogatory housewives or, you know, anything like that, or, you know, sexism, but that was a comment I read. She took up knitting. She said, it's like meditation to me. I really enjoy doing it. I'm in a happy place when I'm doing it. That's great. You know, if it can be something as simple as that, even better. You know, get on with it, do it. I'm just going to tell you a little story before I go, about how you never know. A man can tell you he's perfectly fine. You might think he's perfectly fine, but you don't know. It's what he's saying to you and what's actually happening are two completely different things. I would say to you wives out there, if your husband has just stopped playing football or one of the activities that he's done all his life, you know, keep your eye on him, because if he all of a sudden starts to go a little bit downhill, I think you as the wife can maybe start picking up on these things and trying to say, hey, you need a new hobby, love, you know, why don't you go, all right, you can't play football anymore, maybe could you manage a team, could you go and coach them, could you be the assistant manager, something that just gets you out there and you're still part of something. You know, do that. There's lots of different ways, but yeah, the story I'm just going to tell you here now is something that fell, even now to this day, it hurts me, and when I talk about it now, I guarantee the hairs are going to be stood up all around. Going back probably 8-9 years, I was on my way home from work, and I hadn't drank for about 12 months at this point, maybe even longer, and I could feel something inside me saying, stop at your local boozer, go and get a shandy, go and get a shandy, go and get a shandy. I'm like, what's this voice saying to me? What? And I'm getting a little bit better at listening to that intuitive sort of voice now. I knew it weren't sending me there for a session, you know, I knew that. I knew I was going there for a reason, but I didn't know why. I walks in and I'm on my own. There wasn't a single person in there. So I ordered a shandy and thinking, I'm just going to have the shandy and I'm going to get off. I've bought it now. 30 seconds later, a friend of mine walks in. I had this kid at 15 playing at Burton Wood, and he was brilliant. He was a lovely lad. He was a small kid. He had heart of a lion. You know, he'd be playing against 6'5" centre halves, and and he'd be giving it to him, and they'd be giving it to him, and you could just clearly see that he loved it. You know, he absolutely loved it. His character was one of fighting, never give up. You know, he was everywhere. He was, he's winning headers and getting on the end of things, getting, hit that hard. He'd be flipped upside down. He'd be straight back up, running after him. So anyway, I'm in the pub with him this day. He's probably late 20s at this point. Sits down. I'm having a chat with him. We're having a real good laugh. It was You know, how you doing? You all right? You know, all those things. Oh, do you remember this time? Do you remember that time? And I'd never seen the guy so happy. We were reminiscing about the time, some of the goals he'd scored, and you know, you could see the smile on his face as he was talking about it. We had a chat for about 15-20 minutes. You know, I was like, family all good, everything good? Yeah, great, mate, everything's great. I'm never better, you know, type thing. Everything's good. I was like, all right, brilliant. Hey, listen, good to see you. I'm done. You know, I'll see you soon, mate. Look after yourself. I left that pub about 10 to 7. I got a phone call about 10 past 11 that night off another friend who had actually gone in there, and he said to me, Phil, have you heard the news? I was like, what are you on about? He said, Young has hung himself in his house. I said to you, I'd say it, even as I've said it now, every hair and pimple is stood up on its end. I couldn't believe it. Even now, I'm here, I'm thinking, what? How have I not detected any of that? How could he have been so calm? So calm, what I thought was happy, and then go home and do that? And the more I think about it, I think, had he made his mind up before I was talking to him, and he'd almost accepted what was happening and where he was going, and that had actually brought him a massive amount of peace? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that he wasn't playing football anymore. He wasn't doing some of the things that he loved to do. And I often wonder if he still had them things in his life, would it have come to that? The answer is I don't know, I'll never know. It's just a heartbreaking story, you know. But please, guys, leave in the comments if you think that I've hit nail on heads here, and you know, there's something to be had in what I'm actually saying. Put it in the comments if what I'm saying is resonating with you. Tell me, how have you turned yourself around in sticky situations, mental health wise? You know, please put it in the comments. Let us. I guarantee if I spent all day yesterday reading comments on videos, if I'm doing it, there's a lot of men out there doing it. So help the community. Post down below. Don't be ashamed to put in your struggles. Put where you're at, you know. I've been quite honest on my previous 2 walks. What I am going to do is from tomorrow I'm going to start documenting day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 of me really putting this effort in now. I've walked every day for 5-6 days, but there's other things now I'm going to add in. The vapes are going in the bin. Yet again, I'm out on a walk and I've got 8% on my e-cig, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have 1.5 miles to walk home here without the e-cig. You know, I know it's thoughts that are just crippling me, and I know I can defeat them, and it will be. Keep your eye on this channel, because I'm going to do a video every day for 365 days. I'm going to show you videos tomorrow of my weight, side on, and show you everything and then week by week I want to be showing you improvements, how I've done it, how I've managed to put my mental side back into something positive and start getting better daily. I'm going to document all that. I'd love you to be a part of it. Come on, egg me on, tell me where I'm going wrong. If there's mistakes I'm making, you want to pull me on it, put it in the comments. Let's get talking. You know, that young friend of mine, if I'd have known what he was going through that day, I'd have stayed there with him. I'd have brought him to my house. I'd have spoke to him for 50 hours if it meant that I could have shown him that, you know, we loved him and he was worth more to us around than where he is now, you know. Please do it. Don't forget, guys, if you can hit like, hit subscribe, and I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, God bless you guys. I shall see you on the next one. Keep your eye out for it. Day 1 is coming up soon, and I'm going to transform my life. So watch this space. God bless you guys.